guys, I am Emma Fast from RingSide Pro, and I am so excited to share with you something new that we have been working on. We already were offering clinics through the website where you could submit your own video to the clinician of your choosing and get personal feedback through the website. Now you have a second option where you can decide to join a group live clinic over a Zoom meeting. We have different clinicians every 2 or 3 months where they sign up to do this live clinic, and then you submit your video and your questions. And then on the set date and time, you join the Zoom meeting along with all the other riders that are doing it with you. And you get to watch and learn from the clinician as well as other riders. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what that looks like.
Okay. Why don't we watch the round and then we can watch it again and I'll talk about it. How's that? So because maybe not everybody's watched it yet. So why don't we all just watch the round? I think it's 3 minutes or something.
Okay.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and let it start again, Emma? And then I'll tell you when to stop it. How's that? Okay, let's stop it there. So, Caitlin, first of all, I think this horse is beautiful. He presents a great picture. He's a great color, right? Lots of white. He's in incredible condition. And now that I know you ride with Peg, I know why. He's fat.
I don't ride with Peg.
Oh, Charmaine does?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Who do you ride with?
I ride with Neil Blair. He doesn't do rated. We don't do rated stuff. We do mostly local. And hopefully you're going to step into the rated stuff coming up.
Well, the horse looks fabulous. He's shiny. You're turned out really well. He's clean. And remember, from a judge's perspective, that first impression matters. So when I first watched this video, I thought, ooh, I'm going to like this horse, which is a lot better than saying, ooh, I'm not sure I'm going to like this horse, right? Now, my first impression of you is right from here is that your reins are too long. Okay. So you can see your rein length. Your hands are way behind the martingale strap, and you can see that your shoulders are a little hunched over, like you're trying to control your rein length, right? So you're not sitting up with your hands in front of you. You're here. Okay, go ahead and let it run, Emma. So that was my first impression. Our reins are a little long.
Okay.
Okay, now you get a little resistance there, but you were smart to make sure that you got the right lead. because that's, again, not a good at first impression. So now we're going to the first jump on the right lead. And for me, the horse is a little bit underpaced, okay? And your reins are long. So that's what's telling me that maybe you're a little worried about him taking over or having too much stride. So you're a bit slow there.
Yeah.
Okay. And then stop there. And then the last two strides, go ahead and stop, Emma. So you're slow and you're slow and you're slow, right? And then you see what you want. And the last two strides, you have to move up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then that presents the last stride is quick and you're a little too far away from that vertical. Okay. So again, first impression. So I'm thinking, all right, she's a little protective of his stride. Maybe she's worried that he's going to take over. Maybe he doesn't have a great mouth. I mean, again, just evaluating that particular ride to that particular jump. Okay. And then let's move on. You use your ring really well. You see how you're staying out, looking in. So you're not turning early and getting nervous. That was great. Okay, let's stop right there. Now, how was that jump in? What did you think when you were riding it?
I mean, I thought it was good. I was really nervous about that specific turn just because it was like a 90-degree angle off of the end of the ring. So like in schooling, I was really worried about it, but I felt like it was pretty good for the most part.
In every single instance, you use your ring very well. And that is something that I have to teach over and over and over again. Don't be in a hurry to get to the jump, ride center to center, square your turn, all of those things. And turns really should ride like a 90-degree angle instead of a swoop back onto the jump, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And you should try to ride as straight a line off the turn as you can. So you did that really well. That particular vertical that we just watched was a little deep, okay? And it's the first line, and it's away from the gate. So all of those components, it's a little deep, it's the first line, which always rides more forward than any other line because you're just getting started. And it's away from the gate, so the horses feel that headwind of the gate, right? So those three components should have told my rider, I better move up. I better land and move up because this line's going to get a little bit long. Okay, go ahead, Emma. And again, a little long there. Stop again. So you're a little far away and then you can see your horse bellies the jump, right? So he has to reach for it a little bit and belly it. If I were going to make you do that line again, even with the exact same jump coming in, I would tell you to land and to ride up for 3 and then try to get to that oxer balancing. So for everybody, your horse jumps an oxer better if you get to the base of it and you get to it balancing, not get to it reaching. That's when you have hind rails. That's when he jumps inverted, et cetera, et cetera. So in that situation, in any situation like that, where you come in a little quiet, be brave, ride up for a couple, and then teach your horse to just balance off the ground. And that's homework that I'll give you after we finish this. Go ahead, Emma. Beautiful. Now look at you using your ring there. You see that? That's great. Come off the wall. You're dead eye straight. I love that. All right. Now stop right there. Look at your hands.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay. It's all right. No, I'm again, this is all I have are these 8 jumps. So I'm going to take these little snippets and expand them.
Yeah.
So look at him. So he's set against your hand. His ears are back, right?
Yeah.
And reins are long. So even if I'm teaching you to ride this course and I'm standing at the gate and I say, look, if he takes over coming to the gate, I don't want you to tell me. I don't want to see it. I don't want the judge to see it. As your trainer, I don't want to see this.
Yeah.
So shorten your reins, drop your hand. If you have to pull and you have to slow him down, do it subtly. All right. And teach him that you shouldn't have to wrestle like that, right? You're up out of your stirrups. Your back is braced. He's braced against you. So we have 1,100 pounds versus 120 pounds or whatever you are, right? Who's going to win this?
Right. Yeah.
So he has to, when you sink into your saddle, and again, this will be homework. When you sink into your saddle and ask him to close his stride, you want a better reaction than what you're getting here.
Right.
Okay. So you're just in defensive mode right here. You're worried he's going to take over. He feels you telling him to go and pulling at the same time, which is how we get racehorses to run. Racehorses, we pull on them, right? We hold them, and then they want to go and they run, right? So you're saying, go forward, but I'm going to hold you. And so you're teaching him to pull. Okay. So we need to just break that cycle a little bit.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Emma. And he jumps out great, doesn't he? Little
Mhm.
deep, but fine. Get your lead change. Look at this turn. This is really, I think this is the hardest turn. It's so deep in that corner. And look at that. That's a beautiful jump, right? You see how you got there and he patted the ground and he gave you a little more air in the jump, used his back a little more. That was gorgeous. Now here's a place where you could shorten your reins and get organized.
Yeah.
And this line actually works out really well, which makes me wonder why he pulled toward the gate first line, but not here, whether you anticipated it and made him pull or whether he just gave up pulling. See how nice that was? So that last line was your best line. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. And the oxer before it was really good.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, so keep in mind, I'm making all kinds of assumptions. It's like meeting somebody and deciding you know their story right after talking to them for 10 minutes. So I've talked to you and your horse, you know, through watching this video 4 or 5 times.
Mhm.
And I'll just give you homework based on what I see, assuming that this is kind of typical of how he goes. Okay.
Yeah, and it is. It definitely is.
Okay. So the good news is you have a really quality horse. He jumps well. He has a perfect lead change. He's really attractive. You know, you've got all the ingredients to be incredibly successful with this horse. And so you're ahead of the game already, right? And you should be happy with that. I think that you need to practice riding with shorter reins. And what I do to my students is I knot the reins.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I tell them they can't have their hands, not to hold on to the knots, but they can't have their reins below the knots. So they're able to shorten the reins, but they can't lengthen them past the knots. And put the knots where, so when you're sitting there, you should have a straight line from your elbow to his mouth, right? And in your 2-point, you should be able to communicate with his mouth. You can't see me. Communicate with his mouth without having to resort to this, right? So, and your hands should be right around the martingale strap all the time. Now, the other thing is if you want to do this with your hands, run the reins beneath the martingale strap, and that'll keep your hands close to the neck. Does that make sense? Do you understand that
Yeah.
image?
I love that.
Yeah, I do that all the time. And it just teaches you to keep your hands there and keep your reins short. It's going to feel really weird for a while
Mhm.
because you're used to using this to slow down and you're going to feel perchy. But the more that you do it and the more you relax your leg and sit around your horse, the more effective you're going to be. Okay.
Okay.
So positionally, that's what I would do. The other thing is, I think that you, for example, that line going toward the gate, that right lead line, if we take that as an example of what's going on, I think that you worry about his rideability. So you jump in and you think, man, I better get ahead of this because he's going to lock his jaw and he's going to take me there. So let's take the lines of jumps out of the equation and start working on flat work. Okay. So let's see if we can get, what kind of bit does he wear? Just a D-ring?
Just a snaffle. Yeah, just a D-ring.
And is his mouth tough?
It is, and when we will show in a slow twist sometimes if he's being a little bit more strong. And since this, I have really been working on in my flat work, like half of the ring, I'll sit back and have him like shorten up his stride, and then I'll let him lengthen it and then shorten it up a little bit too. So that is something that I'm aware of and I'm trying to work on.
Okay. So here's what I like to do. And again, you know, usually when you do a clinic, you watch everybody flat around and you have them do exercises, and then you kind of, you know, you get a feel for the rider and the horse. Well, now we started at the end and we're working backwards. Okay. So what I would do is, what I love to do, especially with the horses that might get a little tough in the mouth or younger horses, is do sitting trot to canter, canter to sitting trot transitions over and over and over again. Because initially you're going to go canter, 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 sitting trot, and he's going to go, right? So you're going to close your leg. Remember, it's always leg into hand. You're going to close your leg take his mouth, make him trot. It's not a wrestling match, it's trot.
Right.
And when he trots, you relax on his mouth, right? Then you sit trot. And then when he's where you want him, back to canter. So you keep repeating that so that when he feels you close your leg and lock your elbow a little bit and ask him to slow down, he does it. You've taught him that. So, right. So with horses, it's actually any animals, it's positive reinforcement and repetition, right? His positive reinforcement is you stop pulling on his mouth, or it's good boy, right? Or both. Like he trots, he comes back to sitting trot, he rocks back on his hocks, you soften on his mouth, good boy. And do it until he does it, right? And then that goes into, okay, we've got the canter you want, because when they start the trot to canter transition and back, they go from moving their the diagonal legs to the lateral legs. So it's really good for their back. It strengthens their back to have to go trot, 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 canter, trot, 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 canter. So you've gotten him a little more supple. And then when you feel like he's cantering on his hocks and he's doing what you like, then you start the lengthening and the shortening. And if he takes over, you go back to sitting trot. Right? No, we're not doing that. Like we're cantering in a normal rhythm and I ask you to slow down and you give me some lip, we're coming back to sitting trot. And that might take days. It might take weeks. I don't know the horse. It might take a lot of bit. I don't know how educated your hands are. It might take a loose ring snaffle. It might take a flash, right? A drop, because he does this. He didn't look like he did that too much just in when you broke off onto the right lead canter at the beginning. But if he gets like this with his mouth open, close his mouth, right? You're not being abusive. You're just trying to get to the end of the conversation.
Right.
Remember, the more you wrestle with their mouths, the tougher their mouths get.
Right.
You know what I mean? You want to be effective and have their mouths soft and foamy and, all the stuff we want. But, doing this and wrestling with them just hardens the bars of their mouth. Okay. So do your flat work, and then you're going to go onto rails on the ground. Okay. Now, whether you want to do them on a circle, so you have, at the end of the ring, you can do north, south, east, west rails. So they're on the circle and you can navigate those rails, even sitting trot in between, or you can do them down the long side. So let's say you build two rails, 5 strides apart, sort of a snug 5, right? Actually, sort of an open 5, I'm sorry. Then I want you to go down, I want you to do 6 strides. So you jump in the rail and you make him wait for 6. And when that's good, you go back and then you go forward and do 5 strides. And then you go back and you do 6 strides. So that when he jumps in that first rail, you have options about what you're going to do to the second rail. And you're always keeping a real canter. So you're not crawling in because you're going to do 6, right? You come in maybe a little quiet, or you don't choose the long one, you choose the quiet one. And then you ask him to melt back. And then if you're going to do the 5, you come in with an open canter and you land and you let him get to the next rail. And that all of those exercises are pointing toward rideability and pointing toward him becoming more responsive to your aids and more elastic in his stride. And as you do that, his jump will get better and you'll have more options to the jumps, right? So that left lead line away from the gate, when the second jump, when you were just a hair deep coming in, you could have landed and stepped away and he would have said, oh, I know how to do this. He would have landed and he would have lengthened, and then you would have gotten there and closed your fingers. This is all the ideal, right?
Yeah.
He would have just slowed down to you because you taught him to do that. Right. And the best hunters out there are pretty broke on the flat, at least in my world, right? Some of them are just naturals, right? But most of them, especially amateur horses, have to be rideable, and they have to have flat work, and they have to allow you to make adjustments, because, we are not John French and we are not Sandy Farrell. We don't see the strides. We don't see the distance 12 strides out. We have to be able to make adjustments as we digest where we are on the course. Okay. So I love doing those. I love doing rails on the ground and cavalettis and stuff, because you can make mistakes and there's no dire consequence, right? And, hopefully your coach will be amenable to this. And there are a bunch of, I'm sure I could find some exercises written down for you and send them to you. If you want to send me your email.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in the middle of the winter, or if in a dark afternoon, I think it's really fun. Like every time I ride, I jump. I do rails on the ground. I do cavalettis. I do all the things so that the horses stay supple and you go out, you get on your horse and your thought is, what am I going to accomplish today? Right? Like, and small goals. I want to be able to do 6 trot, canter, trot transitions and have him soft and listening to me. And if it's not working, then we got to find another approach. So I think that's the homework for you is, I mean, to me, all roads lead to flat work. And I think that, the hunters and jumpers and equitation and dressage, they are all tied by flat work, by the horses being connected, by the horses being balanced, by the rider being able to have that elasticity and adjustability, and he'll jump better, and your outcome will be better. But again, you ride really well, you have a good eye, and you have a fabulous horse. So, kudos to you. You've made some really good choices.